echoes of the void. The void was not silent. It hummed, a low, guttural vibration that seeped into the bones of the crew aboard the Erebus. They had been trained to expect silence in the vacuum of space. But this was something else entirely, a soundless resonance that seemed to pulse through the ship's hull, as if the void itself were alive. The black hole they orbited loomed like a gaping wound in the fabric of reality, its edges shimmering faintly, as though it were breathing. The crew had come to study it, to probe the mysteries of the universe's most enigmatic phenomena. But as the days stretched into weeks, the black hole began to feel less like an object of study and more like a predator, watching them from the shadows of existence. The Erebus was a small, skeletal vessel, its corridors narrow and dimly lit. The artificial gravity hummed faintly, but the crew moved as though weighed down by something far heavier than physics. The black hole's presence was oppressive, a constant reminder of their fragility. Its pull was not just physical, but psychological, as if it were reaching into their minds, plucking at their thoughts like strings on a fraying harp. The first anomaly appeared in the data. The black hole's event horizon was not behaving as expected. It rippled, undulated, as though something beneath its surface was stirring. The crew's instruments picked up faint patterns in the radiationer rhythm, almost organic, like the faint thrum of a heartbeat. At first, they dismissed it as interference, a glitch in the system. But the patterns grew stronger, more deliberate, until they could no longer be ignored. The void around the black hole began to change. What had once been an empty abyss now seemed to teem with movement, fleeting shadows that danced at the edges of perception. The crew's sensors detected nothing, yet the feeling of being watched became inescapable. The ship's lights flickered intermittently, and the air grew colder, as though the void itself was seeping into the Erebus. One by one, the crew began to unravel. They didn't speak of it, there was no need. The fear was palpable, a shared weight that pressed down on them all. Sleep became elusive, haunted by dreams of vast, unknowable shapes writhing in the darkness. The black hole was no longer a phenomenon to be studied. It was a presence, ancient and malevolent, and it was waking up. The captain ordered a probe to be launched into the black hole. The crew watched in silence as the small, metallic object was swallowed by the event horizon. For a moment, there was nothing, just the endless pull of the void. Then the data began to stream in, and with it came the first images. The black hole's interior was not empty. It was a labyrinth of impossible structures, vast and incomprehensible, stretching into infinity. The walls of these structures pulsed faintly, as though alive, and their surfaces were etched with patterns that defied understanding. The crew stared at the images, their minds struggling to grasp what they were seeing. It was not a place, it was a body. The realization came slowly, like the creeping chill of frostbite. The universe was not a void, not an expanse of stars and galaxies scattered across an endless canvas. It was the interior of something unfathomably vast, an ancient being whose body stretched across the cosmos. The black holes were not anomalies. They were pores, openings into the entity's flesh. and the crew of the Erebus had ventured too close to one of its wounds. The probe's data grew erratic, the images distorted by bursts of static. But through the interference, the crew saw something that froze their blood. Deep within the labyrinth, something was moving. It was slow, deliberate, and impossibly large. The structures around it seemed to contract and expand in rhythm with its movements, as though the entire labyrinth were a single, living organism. The hum that had haunted the crew since their arrival grew louder, deeper, resonating through the ship like the tolling of a great bell. The lights flickered violently, and the ship shuddered as though gripped by an unseen hand. The crew scrambled to regain control, but the Erebus was no longer theirs. It was being pulled, inexorably, toward the black hole. As the ship crossed the event horizon, the void outside the windows seemed to ripple and twist, the stars warping into grotesque shapes. The hum became a roar, deafening and all-encompassing, as though the universe itself were screaming. The crew clung to their stations, their faces pale with terror, as the ship was drawn deeper into the labyrinth. The final image from the probe appeared on the ship's monitors. A single frame burned into their retinas. It was an eye, vast and unblinking, its surface a swirling maelstrom of galaxies and stars. It stared at them, through them, as though peering into the very essence of their being. And then it blinked. The Erebus was gone, swallowed by the black hole, its crew lost to the void. But the hum remained, echoing across the cosmos, a soundless vibration that carried with it a single, horrifying truth. The ancient being was awake, and it was aware, far beyond the reach of human comprehension. The universe began to shift, its stars trembling as the colossal entity stirred. The void was no longer empty. It was alive, and it was watching.